Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. And today I'm doing a updated review of my first and only Civivi knife. This is the Civivi Mini Praxis, along with just an update on new things that I've learned about knives, being that I'm kind of new to diving into the everyday carry of a pocket knife. You guys know on the channel, we mentioned about carrying accessories and things of that sort, things that, you can kind of carry in your person, just to kind of like, just elevate yourself, whether it's accessories, things like that, watches, wallets, pens. We've covered stuff like that on the channel before and whatnot. And, but I recently did a video about getting into knives, just kind of diving into the surface of it. Since that time, doing that video, I then kind of dived heavy, like I usually do when it comes to getting into a hobby or interest. I dived very heavy into kind of researching about knives a little bit, at least the brands, and going on Amazon, and link's going to be in the description down below for this knife on Amazon. But I went on there, started discovering about different brands, different materials, different things of that sort. So I'm going to go over that. So this is going to be not only an updated review of the Civivi Mini Praxis, but also a slight deep dive into knives in general, as a kind of like, I don't know if you want to call it a buyer's guide, but just a bit of information that you guys could use towards if you decide to buy, and things to look for, look out for, if you're new to it. It's really kind of like on the surface for those who are heavy into knives, but for me, it's a deep dive in that I don't know a lot. So for me, it was a lot to kind of take in, and just over the basic research. So first, kind of jumping back into the knife, now that I know a little bit better of it, I know more in terms of like where the materials stand, where the company stands in relation to other other companies that are its competition, or even sister companies, because this has two additional sister companies, the company Civivi, which is interesting because Civivi sits in the middle between two companies. One is called Sencut, Sencut, and the other one that sits below it, and the one that sits above it is called We Knife, like WE and knife. And that one sits above it. It sits actually kind of way above it, while Sencut is, for the most part, not too different in pricing. It's a little bit more budget. You might have some of the blades will have slightly, I don't want to say lower quality steel, but usually less, what's the word I'm looking for? Less popular, for lack of a better word, less popular steels. They may be, some of the other steels might be better than them, but it's not by that much. But popular wise, I'm going to get into that in a moment. Some of the features that come with knives that are considered like more popular in this space. Before I purchased the knife, I kind of was understanding about some of these things, certain materials, based on the fact that when it comes to multi-tools, which I've reviewed on this channel before, you start kind of diving into that space of different steels and what's considered popular versus not, and things of that sort. But what you start realizing when you come into the knife world is a lot of that carries over, as well as other various materials, like what the handles are made of, which is, they call them the scales. And so we're going to kind of jump into that. But before I get into all that, I'm just going to dive into really the knife itself. So this was $30. I purchased it. It's my first Civivi knife, but it's also my first modern knife, because I previously put up on the channel when I first reviewed this that I had old knives, but I didn't have anything modern, which, if you're coming from owning old knives and never owning a modern knife, there's a lot of things that you aren't used to that come standard now. In terms of the design, obviously you can see here, in terms of like these flippers, that's what they call this piece here, that mechanism, or at least that piece sticking out, that goes hand in hand with the ability to flip it out. Whereas on some older knives, just bringing in an older knife that I have here off on the side, you have the thumb stud, which you'll still have on newer ones, but at least back then when I used to have knives, not that I was a heavy collector or anything of that sort, but, and this is my main unboxing knife, so it's dull. You wouldn't have things like that flipper. They wouldn't, you know, come out fast and easy or anything like that. It wasn't something you could flick out. That was just a standard, like a slow just motion of flicking it out. So I say that to say that there's a lot of new features and things that kind of go along with it, even adding to almost like a trend of it. You know what I mean? Almost like a hobby fascination trend with it. Like, you know, oh, look at these features, you know, things that come from that perspective. Like it's a premium, almost like a collector's kind of feature type of thing. Oh, what features does that knife have? And a lot of hobbies these days, or even if you're not viewing it as a hobby, but just something that you purchase for your EDC. But in general, a lot of collecting items have that aspect of them now, where it's like, you know, these features. It's the same with even multi-tools now. Oh, what kind of steels do they have? What kind of features do they have? Things like that. So it almost becomes a part of most, whether it's hobbies or things that you purchase now, that it becomes a space of, how should I say, almost like collecting, almost like novelty. That's the word I'm looking for, almost like a novelty of certain features. So with this right here, the skins on it for the handle are known as G10. The blade is a D2 blade. That's the knife, the steel material, D2. And this right here is known as the flipper. You have your pocket clip, and this is known as a deep carry pocket clip because it's all the way at the edge of the handle. So just a few things that I've learned from, like I said, my minor kind of deep dive into learning about the knives. As I mentioned in my previous review of this, I'm really a fan of the way that they kind of round off the edges, the way the texturing is. I'm actually a fan of the material G10, and I'm going to get into some of the different common materials that are on this price range level. And when I say this price range level, this starting at $30, going all the way up to, like, say, $100 to $150. The materials that kind of go into these ranges. I'm sure there are probably even more advanced materials that go way above that. In the WE knife line, like I said, the higher sister company of this, of Civivi, definitely goes into price ranges. I saw them online where they're on average, low for them is like maybe $200, $250, and they go all the way up to like $800 some change, $900. So it definitely has a very wide range at that point. But the Sencut and Civivis both are about the same, with Sencut's lower end being around the same price as this, maybe about $30, but their upper end goes to about maybe like 70 on average, 60, like mid 60s on average, while I feel like Civivi goes a little bit higher to like about maybe its high average is about like 80. So maybe about like a $20 difference of like its high average. It can go higher than that, but just the average of the highs. Now, like I said, the skins on this is G10. That's a fiberglass composite. Just think of it similar to a lower level carbon fiber. Think of it like that for simple terms. Think of it as a lower level carbon fiber. It's still nice. It feels nice. And I'm actually a big fan of G10. There's another type of composite that's made of fabric and resin called micarta. And within the realm of the knife world that I've seen, micarta seems to be a step above G10. So a lot of times if you see a knife that is, say, like, so in this case, this is $30. If you saw a comparable knife from this, from Civivi or Sencut, and there's another company too that's not a sister company to those, but I feel is a very much a rival company to Civivi in terms of the quality and where they lie at. They're a little bit, in my opinion, above Sencut from what I've seen the research, but go kind of really neck and neck with Civivi, and that's Kaiser. It's another brand that you'll find on Amazon with a lot of different knife options, just like Civivi. So I feel like Sencut, Civivi, and Kaiser are really the ones that if you're starting off and you want quality brand, that you know you're getting a good name brand, but you're not breaking the bank, you can go with those three. Weed knife is just too expensive. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So with these comparable companies and different ones, you'll see that micarta, for example, if you had this type of knife, this one doesn't make itself in micarta, but we're just going to use it as an example. Say if you had this kind of knife and it was the same price, the same layout, but now you change the skin from G10 to micarta, it would probably be about $10 more. Then the next step up is aluminum, from at least from what I've seen in terms of the order of what's considered more valuable, an aluminum skin, which me personally, I actually prefer the micarta, I prefer the G10, even though it's cheaper than the rest. And I can't speak for long term on that, but just the way this feels versus holding an aluminum type of knife in your hand, there's something about this, the texture and the feel, that just something about it is kind of cool. Maybe it's because it's new to me and I'm new to that kind of material, and I've always been used to other materials. Like, for example, I think that this is aluminum. I could be wrong. It could be just stainless steel, but just in general, having this type of material on the outer part and seeing that it's so smooth, it makes me think of it like it's I don't know, it just feels like a nice balance of texture, feel, plus durability, even though it is the lower end of it, but I'm just a fan of it. So anyway, like I said, the next level up is aluminum, and the next higher level up that they charge a lot for, which you often find in the weed knives, are titanium, which obviously is very light and very strong. Once you get into that range, I don't think it's necessarily, the value is definitely going to be to each their own. Like, you're not into the beginning area though, the more budget friendly area. So I don't think it's worth it if you're looking for a starter knife or a budget knife. But so as I was saying, price wise though, something like this would go up probably an additional $10 for being micarta. If it was aluminum, it'd probably go up an additional maybe $10 or $20 if it was aluminum. So at that point, this would probably be, if this was aluminum scales, it'd probably be about $50 with no other changes. Now, you start seeing, as you start comparing different knives and different materials, if you have, say, the knife blade, for example. Now, I've seen a couple of knives that the blade is like C803. I'm not too familiar with what that means, but I'll say this too. When it comes to things like features and novelties in terms of the features, similar to, I went up the line from the G10 to the micarta to the aluminum to the titanium, and it's almost like a novelty to have like the better one as you go up. It's the same with the blade steels. Now, generally speaking, my understanding of it is that when it comes to blade steels, there are benefits and positives to each type. So imagine it almost like a kind of, they'll usually display them in like almost like circular kind of spider web grid that shows like one direction going like, how can I'll draw it so you guys can, the idea. Here, I just kind of wrote down the same stuff that I'm speaking on, but I will draw it because some people have probably seen this kind of diagram. It's almost like a pentagon type of shape. And then what it will be like, it was to have something like, hardness, edge, retention, and other things around the little kind of diagram. And it will show you like, like when you're more towards this side, you get a little less towards this side. When you're more to this side, it's a little less on the other side. And it's a way of like balancing things out. And so essentially each knife steel is kind of balanced, where some have better edge retention but are less tough, some are more tough, better edge retention, easier to sharpen, blah, all this kind of thing. So you get the point I'm saying. Within that though, I noticed that there seems to be almost like an increase in price based on a certain type of blade material, along with a novelty factor that goes with it, even though most of the materials seem to be balanced with each other, where, like I said, you're getting one is giving you a little bit more of something else. So it's really a matter of what do you want out of your blade. But even within that, there still is a climbing ladder to some degree. So the C803, or some kind of basic steel that you might not really be familiar with the name of, might not have a fancy name to it, seems to be on the bottom from what I've seen. Then I've seen 14C28N was a steel I've seen in some of the knives. I don't know if that's lower than D2 or higher than it, but I get the impression from my research that D2 seems more of a novelty steel, like within a budget knife, it's considered premium in a budget knife. So a knife that's like $30, a knife that maybe is $50, D2 would be like, yeah, we want D2 in it. Nitro V seems to be the next higher or highest level budget metal. So if you have a knife that is, say, we'll say like $50 to like $80, you'd be like, I want Nitro V in it if I can have Nitro V. What's funny is I noticed that Kaiser, the kind of rival company to Civivi, tends to put things like more Nitro V, and then we'll have like in some of their premium, like not premium, but some of their lines, they'll put like Nitro V, but then they'll take away on some of the other things, where I feel Civivi does more of a gradual increase. And I'll explain what I mean. Civivi will go, okay, we have G10 scales. They will then do maybe micarta scales, and you'll have D2. You can have G10 with D2, but sometimes you have a lower level steel with G10, but you almost won't have, like, say, a Nitro V with the G10 as much. They try to rise each level, the scales material and the blade material kind of both go up at the same time, making the overall price more. I noticed that Kaiser tends to, and Sencut, their lower end company, kind of does this as well, which is a sister company of Civivi, will not always have it go up in that way. They'll say, well, I'll give you Nitro V for the steel, but I'll put it on the G10 scales. So that way the price of it might be equal to something that was like micarta, scales and D2, blade, but instead they just went high with the blade and a lot lower with the scales. Like it's weird how they mix it up when you start like looking at what's on Amazon and start kind of like researching it. You start seeing that, but it's different. But it's a way of like saying, okay, you can get more out of certain parts that you want. If you're more about, I don't want something that's like a kind of gradual increase on everything, but like one specific thing. So for example, I believe this was a Sencut knife that had aluminum in the handle. And also to another premium feature that raises the price of these is the deployment ability. So here you have the flipper, but some of them will have the flipper, will have the, thumb stud. But then also too, some of them will have a button release, which is also a premium feature that almost brings up the price an additional like $20 for that. And so you might see, I've seen a Sencut model that had a button release, which is kind of considered like a little bit premium, would normally bring the price up pretty high. But this particular knife is like $46 and it had aluminum too, but then the blade steel was not even D2 or something less than D2. So it was like they kind of went lower on the blade steel for the other features being a little more premium. And that was one of the most affordable knives I've seen with the button lock on it. But so that's another thing, like I said, that I learned just throwing that in there with the button lock thing. A lot of sometimes, like, so this model right here has, this is the Mini at 30. You have another Praxis that is the regular Praxis. It's got the G10, and I think there's also a micarta version of it, but then the blade is not D2. And I think it's older than this one, so that's why. Otherwise, if it was brand new, it probably would have had that. But then they have a newer button release one that's even more premium. So that one, this is $30. The regular Praxis, which is a bigger, slightly bigger knife because it's the Mini Praxis. The regular Praxis is about $42. And then the even higher level one is the Praxis button lock, which has the button on it, like I said before. So you would go like this and you could just press the button and then it would fall back into place. Similar to this knife I have over here, where it's like that, but this is not a button. I believe this is called like a lever lock or something. I'm not 100% sure. I've heard the name before, but I forget right now. But instead it's a button. And essentially what the button is doing is it's pressing the liner lock in, where you don't have to press it with your thumb like that because you're just pressing the button, and then it makes it just fall. Now, the point I was getting at that is that the Praxis, the higher level Praxis, has the button release. It has aluminum scales. It has the blade is Nitro V. So you're getting all the things that are more premium, like I mentioned before, and that runs for, on Amazon, about $75. And if you get it directly from the website, in case that they won't mail to you, because in my state they don't mail from Amazon any of these knives, it's $88 on Civivi's website. But my point is that's even more premium, double than the regular Praxis price. So this is 30, the regular Praxis is 42, and then the Praxis with button release with all the premium, more premium features, novelty features, is like 75 to 80, $75 to $85. So at that point, you see how much it climbs. Now, We Knife now makes a Praxis, and theirs has titanium scales. It has, it's not even a button release. So in that aspect, it doesn't even have that, but it's all titanium, and it has a special knife blade material that's even higher than Nitro V, but it's some kind of number abbreviation. I'm not sure what it is. So even then you see that, and that goes for about $250. So you can see how things climb up with the materials. Another type of blade material too, I forgot to mention, that's considered above Nitro V, but still within the affordable range relatively, and will bring like a blade, like for example, the Praxis that I just said was about $75 on Amazon, will bring it to like maybe, almost $100 about, and that is Damascus. It's almost like a combination of different metals that almost creates a wave pattern in the blade. So that was my little overall, just kind of like going over some of the things I've learned. I hope that helps you guys in terms of just learning, like, what's considered a little bit higher end, what's considered a little bit lower end, and how certain knives will have certain features thrown into the mix to like make it a little bit better, a little lower to save money, cost cutting, things of that sort. Yeah, and hopefully that benefits you guys, helps you guys. My experience now, I've been carrying this on me for at least a week, a little more than that, I believe. And I'm actually a fan now of carrying, if I'm wearing jeans, carrying a knife in my fifth pocket. Now this is it's called the Mini Praxis, and it's very small. It's roughly something about like a little bit more than 3 inches, and its total length becomes almost 7 inches, because it's almost like 3.5 for the length of the handle and almost like 3 inches for the blade. And so it comes up to like just shy of 7 inches total. But it fits inside the fifth pocket so well, and that makes it very, kind of just hidden and inconspicuous when it comes to carrying it. You don't have to worry about it being something that's cumbersome in the way, weighing you down. And so it's made me actually become a fan of, actually carrying a knife as an EDC, type of carry. So that was new to me, and now, I'm into it. I'm into having it. Now, I have also recently showed a video where I had put together a little pouch setup, and I reviewed this pouch, and I was able to carry this knife in here. But generally speaking, I like to carry this on my person in that fifth pocket. So I think that will also kind of really come down to some of the bigger knives that go beyond a blade of 3 inches, sometimes also kind of go up in price too. And the smaller ones that are below 3 inches, which a lot of them have blades that are below 3 inches, kind of fall within a budget range as well. Not that much of a difference, maybe like a $20 difference between the ones that are above 3 inches versus below it. But this is probably best for if someone would just want something they can carry on them, fit in their fifth pocket. If you want something bigger than that, because you're going to be holding it maybe on a pouch on your belt or anything of that sort, then you might go bigger and go outside of the range of the smaller ones. But I definitely really like this. I personally think this is probably the best starter knife you can get, this specific one, the Civivi Mini Praxis, because it has a lot of nice quality and features. I like the G10. I know it's considered like the lower end of the scale material, but I like the way they do it. I like this color. I like the fit and finish on it. The D2 is a nice blade material. This has gotten smoother for me to flick out as time's going on and me use it, so I like that. It doesn't have a whole bunch of super premium features, but nonetheless, it's also $30. So it's actually the lowest price you're going to find of most of the knives you'll see on there. You really don't see anything go below $30 from these companies. The pocket clip feels nice. It's a nice, like, feels like bead blasted type of, or sand blasted, I'm sorry, type of paint job, or, you know, surfacing, because it feels very nice and smooth. Probably over time, it's still going to wear out. A lot of things on this is going to wear out. It's probably not going to feel as nice over time, but just at least carrying it on you. Am I the type of person who will use a knife on a daily basis in terms of just using it, chopping things up? No, I wouldn't. I do like carrying it around. I'll be honest with you. I actually carry it around more so as, not that I have any kind of issue or worry of protection, but at the same time too, I feel like I wouldn't be using it to cut random things. So it does become more of like a protection type of thing. Not that I'm ever in a situation I need it, but it's more of one of those things that it's just kind of cool to carry in that regard. But if I had to say what my primary purpose is, I'm not going to be shaving wood with this. I'm not the person who's in the outback or in the woods or anything like that. I'm not doing that. I don't have any other purpose for it other than to say, well, you know, you carry it on you more of like a protection thing. Like, and a lot of people probably carry the knives on them for that, because if you also are the type of carry multi-tools, you would use your multi-tool for a lot of things. So with that being said, I use this, keep it in the fifth pocket, small. I don't even take it out. A lot of times I'll be in my car and I just use it to play with, because it also acts as a good fidget kind of item just to kind of, you know, have fun with. But I hope that what I have mentioned to you guys, all this info has helped you, maybe help you guys choose, you know, a knife for yourself. Like I said, I definitely recommend this one, but there are a bunch of other ones out there that might suit you. In addition to that, this is definitely going to be one of my favorites, even though I did already order a few other knives. I bought this at the same time that I bought this one as well. This is an Ozark Trails knife from Walmart that has gotten very popular. But as far as more Civivi, I purchased an additional Civivi, and I actually purchased a Kaiser knife that goes in direct competition with this one at the same price range, $30. You can find this one and that one on Amazon. And I am going to actually put them in their paces against each other in a versus, not doing any necessary activity with them, but just comparing the quality of them each, because it's going to be very interesting, because I didn't see that comparison between the two. It is actually the Kaiser Nice Guy. And one, I didn't see anyone compare them online, but two, I feel that they're direct rivals to each other. You can't go wrong with either one. It'll just be a matter of what's your style, which one you like, but you can't go wrong with either one. But it's just very interesting because they're both, if you're looking on Amazon, you're looking at these brands, those are the two budget ones that really seem to kind of like mirror each other in terms of price, in terms of the material, G10, D2. So yes, so stay tuned for that. Once again, I really love this knife. One thing also I like about it is that it looks so small when you have it folded, and then when you flip it out, it actually feels almost like a full-size knife, even though it is smaller. But something about, I guess, because the hand grooves fit where your fingers can go in each spot, so you can get a full grip on it, and it just feels like it's a nice full size to a degree, even though it's a mini. Anyway, you guys, as always, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.